I thought you were live.
I've just gone live now.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to send the link into Tom. Hang on a minute. Send the new link into Tom. And then jobs are good. Yeah, there's the new link. Copy. Apologies, Tom. Apologies. This is my end, this. So strange as well. Right, there we are. There's the new link in. So once Tom gets that, give us a thumbs up or something. Give us a goat. And then we're fine. We are good to go.
Right, okay, ready? You're live this time, right, James?
Yes, I'm live this time.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, that was spot on.
No, I don't want to ready. I want to be spectacular. Oh God, me in a car is not a good idea.
He'll sync it later. That's what he said. He'll sync it later.
There you go. Yeah, we gave you a chance to sync it now. Because we're nice people like that.
We're very respectful people.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Tom, give us the 3 goats when you're ready for us to start being serious.
Very serious.
Serious game faces on, serious game faces on.
Hang on, I've just realised, have we now formed a 3-household bubble in the... technically? Tom,
no, James.
me, you, yeah.
No, James. No. Alright, not much time. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Let's do it then.
Right. Oh! What? Internet connection quality is not currently sufficient to broadcast gameplay. Brilliant.
Okay, well, hopefully that'll improve. Right. When we're good to go, let's do it. Good luck, everybody. Have a good time. And as always, 10 seconds. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and wherever you're watching in the world, welcome along to TT Masters League Season 2 Division 1 and the 6th round of the Championships, which takes us to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. And a very warm welcome to you on this cold Tuesday night. My name is Kieran McGinley, and joining me in the commentary box is the lovely, the fantastic, the internet might not be his friend tonight, it's Mr. James Head. James, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really well, Kieran. Hopefully the internet will not hold me back. But how are you, most importantly?
Yeah, I'm very well indeed. Let's just jump straight into the standings, meanwhile, as we haven't got a lot of time to build up during this race. Obviously, as you see on the constructor standings, I hope I made that clear to Tom in the background, because he's probably just showing the drivers one. But the constructors one, 134 for Mercedes. They are ahead of the field, aren't they, at this moment in time? Red Bull in second place on 91, with AlphaTauri on 82. Looking down the order, though, all looks pretty close together, apart from that battle for the lead at this moment in time. Red Bull and AlphaTauri hoping that they can get some more good points on the board. At the bottom of the table and rooted there at the moment are Ferrari on 36 points. And of course, looking at the drivers' standings, well, Medium Pilot is at the top of the table, the only driver so far this season to reach treble digits on 108. Papetum and Killer Blue rounding out that top 3, and that result from Killer Blue last time around got him into that position. And if you missed the French Grand Prix last time out, well, you missed a heck of a race, didn't you? Killer Blue took his first ever win in TT Masters League. Amazing Hour finished up in second, and Combi rounded out the top 3. 3. Yeah, that's not a top 3 I was expecting either. But James, what a top 3, and it's really shaken up that order.
It really has shaken up that order, and I think with Medium Pilot not attending last week, I said right at the start of qualifying that it could be anybody's game, and Killer Blue, of course, took his first win, but really good results last time out from pretty much everyone, I think, out on track. Perpetuum, I think, finished down in 8th or 9th in the end, so we didn't close the gap as much as what we would have been expecting, but we're hoping that the German can try and give that through. But for him, Medium Pilot has just turned up.
Yes, absolutely. Well, meanwhile, James, we haven't got a lot of time for the build-up, so I better hand it over to you as we head into the halfway point of this season. Let's hand it over to James for his hot lap of Silverstone.
Let's get straight on to it then. It is the hot lap. We are on board with Combi, who is, of course, a Division 1 driver. 1 race to his name, 20 points and 1 podium around an 18-corner track of Silverstone, the home of British motorsport, of course, on a cold Tuesday night here in the United Kingdom, wherever you may be watching from. We are now going through Vale and into Club Corner, and this is through the final 2 corners out on track. Of course, as standard, he is using the Mercedes, and across the line comes Combi to start us off on his lap. Around a 1:23, 1:24 lap time could be possible within qualifying as he now comes through Abbey Farm, and then up towards the village section, coming up towards turn 3, looking very nice indeed. And now through the loop section through turn 4, the German will be hoping to try and replicate a really good result from last week, of course, in France. Now down the Wellington Straight, where, of course, the international track expands onto the Grand Prix circuit, through the first sector split and then in towards Brooklands at turn 6. Then Luffield at turn 7. These corners do come up thick and fast. And then we're on towards the old pit straight. Out of Luffield, really good through there on the power. Through Woodcut and then halfway on the lap. Down the old pit straight, down towards Copse at turn 9. This is the halfway point within the lap. And Combi doing a very good job so far. Not running over any invalidations or anything like that. Doing a fantastic job as he now comes through Maggots, Beckett's, and then towards Chapel. And Chapel, of course, will be that corner that really focuses the attention. He can spin out the car a little bit there as well. But Combi then running down the straight, looking for like a very good lap, I've got to say, so far. Through that middle sector split, then in towards Stowe, and only 3 corners remain. Those 3 corners, of course, being Vale and Club, and Combi now coming through the final couple of corners, through 16, 17, and then through Club Corner at turn 18, and that is a lap of the Silverstone circuit.
Yeah, really planted that car, wasn't it? And Combi showing us how it was done, and obviously looking to build on his performance last week there, James, on the podium, and he was saying himself that he was very happy to be there. Hopefully he's here tonight to race here at Silverstone, but what did you make of his performance last week?
I think Combi did a great job. He was right up there in the vanguard, and obviously Medium Pilot wasn't there. We shouldn't draw that away from a really good performance that Combi did do. But I'm just concerned if he doesn't show up tonight, he might be just falling down behind. He might be a championship contender later on in the season, but he has started off the season quite late. We said that about M Short, of course, in Division 2, and then look what happened. 2 races in, he turned up in Vietnam and then ran away with the championship in Division 2 last season. But we are probably just moments away from the action getting out on track. And I'm going to turn to you, Kieran, here as well. Oh, yeah, I'm turning to you. Top 3. Who do you think is going to be top 3? Because you normally swing it on me. I'm going to swing it on you this time.
Yeah, I don't like this new way you're doing it. Well, at this point in time, Medium Pilot has surely got to be the favourite to take the race victory. Once we're done with qualifying tonight, we will be at the halfway point in the season because, of course, you do get the 3 points for... you get the 2 points for pole position. So it's very likely that he's going to take the race win. I think Killer Blue could carry on his momentum, but I think M Short will grab that second place. So for me, it's going to be Medium Pilot, M Short and Killer Blue. I reckon that's going to be the top 3 today. As we're now counting down, or you can't see it on your end, but we can see it on ours, into the British Grand Prix qualifying. And that, of course, means we go home to Silverstone for the British Grand Prix, and I hope you're going to enjoy this as much as James and I do. And obviously redesigned in the earlier part of the 2010s to now this modern day selection we have. But enough talking, enough sentiment. Let's jump straight into the 6th round of TT Masters League for the Silverstone circuit and the British Grand Prix. It's pretty rare for the sun to be shining down here in Silverstone, but it takes us to the 6th round of the 2nd season here of TT Masters League Division 1 for the British Grand Prix. And of course as well, we have these selected tyre compounds, and the stewards have gone for C4, C3 and C2, which hopefully should give us some great balance between racing and having to manage the tyres. Silverstone's always been one of those tracks you need to manage your tyres on, with the high-speed corners that follow, and obviously the long straights too. We started off in 1950 with 8 corners. We've bumped it up all the way to 18 here for 2020. Obviously, we've got the 2 DRS zones and obviously the 2 detection zones as well on a disused airfield, and now turned into a fully fledged racing circuit. It's been the home of Silverstone and the first ever Formula 1 Championship Grand Prix back in 1950. And as we look on here to this brand new, well, it's not so brand new anymore, but onto this paddock section into the new pit lane building, it's fair to say quite a bit has changed over the last 70 years.
A lot has changed over the last 70 years, and yeah, this track went under redevelopment from about 2009, I think, and then they obviously added in this pit building. I think the first Grand Prix held here within its original form, its current form, was 2011, if I'm not mistaken. That historic race, of course, for the new circuit, the new branded Silverstone circuit. But beautiful blue skies here at Silverstone. This is something that you don't expect at this point in the year here in England, and certainly in the United Kingdom as well. But we're just hoping on a really good result out on track. And I think Recon is the first man out on track, along with his partner Varkey in the Williams.
He is indeed, and Recon now tiptoeing his way through in towards the loop, now on towards Aintree and then down the Wellington Straight. And of course it's one of those classic old school circuits where there aren't really any corner numbers such as such. It's all into corner names. So learning them all, trying to get them all like the back of your hand as he now heads in towards Luffield. There you go, I'm just showing off now. It's always a great skill to have instead of the corner numbers as we now make our way through Woodcote and on towards the old Turn 1. And James, the old Turn 1 here, the old grid still stands because they do use it for some sports car races, flying all the way through Copse there. And there's just a little lift off the throttle in these quali setups they've got today.
You can actually take it, if you're really brave, you can actually take it if you've got the setup flat out through Copse, which never used to be known in the 1950s when this was first inaugurated, of course, in 1950. Twitch Lemon has retired out the session already. Not sure if that was out on track. I think that might have been in the pit lane, if I'm not mistaken. Barkey, Recon, though, coming through the final couple of corners. And as well, the pit straight, by the way, the old pit straight does get used for the MotoGP and for the British touring cars around here. So a little bit of fun facts there.
Absolutely, and as we just ride on board with Recon for this lap, hopefully you should be able to see the current driver standings. And of course as well, 2 points up for grabs for pole position here in Silverstone, and it's been the case for the entire season. One man who's dominated that though has been Medium Pilot, and it's very unwise not to put your money on him tonight.
Yeah, Medium Pilot, I think, has got a good chance out on track. He is there out on track in the Mercedes. Not sure where he is out on track. I haven't got the track map up for now. I will have it up in the race. But Recon looking good through the first sector. Watching on board with Varkey as well, 27 flat through the first sector. There or thereabouts, I think, where you want to be. But the track does evolve around here.
It does indeed, as now we see that Williams making his way all the way in towards Copse Corner, now using all that curve on the left-hand side, darting to the right as the aero tries to hold on to the track below as you now make your way in towards Maggott's section, then in towards Beckett's. And this is one part of the track that really has changed over the years. Maggott's and Beckett's used to be a long right-hander that you used to have to really slow the car down before you then went back onto the Hangar Straight. It was a much more steep corner that really needed those brakes. As we now head our way in through Stowe, and then we make our way towards Vale and then in towards that club corner section as Recon, bit of a lock up there in towards the third to last corner, now making our way in through club corner and on towards that start finish straight, and Recon there sets a 24's flat, which is just about on the just about faster than you there, James, when you were practicing only about half an hour ago. Varkey 25.4 from the other Williams driver, as we see those lap times coming in thick and fast.
Don't rub in Recon's lap on me. I was only 2 seconds off in time trial. Medium Pilot on a lap. He's on a set of medium compounded tyres, interestingly, so he's going to be trying to go later on in the session where the track does evolve. he'll be trying to hope for a really good result out on track. He's now coming through Maggots and Beckett's, doing a good job. Venom has gone second as well with a 24.5. The medium part through Chapel now and onto the hangar straight. 101.3 through the middle sector. It's not too bad, actually, for a middle sector on a set of medium compound of tyres. That always is the case where this track will evolve, and you can find possibly about 1.2, 1.3 seconds on a lap. Cosby coming in there in the Ferrari in fourth with a 126 flat by medium pilot through the final corner. He's going to be there or thereabouts. I think he'll drop in behind Varkey, I think, possibly across the line. No, I was wrong. He jumps ahead of Venom, in fact, for third.
That's a blistering lap time there
really good lap
from medium pilot, 24.4, and it just goes to show you that he is well up for that soft tyre run. And of course we do have to talk strategy at some point in this race here, James. We know that Silverstone does like to be very heavy with its tyres, so what are the sort of strategies we could expect from the drivers tonight?
I think, to be honest, a one-stop strategy might be the one to work out on. M. Short, by the way, has gone second, 24.1, and I'm a D. He's really doing well in qualifying these days, 24.3 going third. But I think in terms of the strategy, these guys have got to be careful, because this is quite a high tyre degradation circuit. It's like 4 or 5% a lap. These laps fall off. And possibly on a set of soft compound tyres, you're only going to be seeing maybe 7, 8, 9 laps out on that set of tyres, but they'll be avoiding that C4 compound, which I think is the hard compound, if I'm not mistaken. The white wall, that is going to be avoided at all costs, because it's the worst tyre you can possibly go on around here. I'm involved with Killer Blue as well, through the middle sector, 101.2, so he's briefly quicker than medium pilot, doing a good job so far, but we'll see how he gets on for the rest of this lap.
Yep, he now flies his way in through Stowe Corner, and of course we've seen Nigel Mansell go round the outside there, and unfortunately Killer Blue decides no, he's not going to try then complete that lap, as he now makes his way in towards the pit lane. So we just see Coutinho, but he's invalidated his lap time, so we won't be able to see an improvement for him. But the Alpha Tauri driver in Perpetuum is now out on track and currently on an outlap, as he now makes his way down the hangar straight on the approach towards Stowe Corner. But as it stands then, Recon is at the top of the table on a 24.0. M Short in second, 24.1. Second row of the grid is Medium Pilot and I'm a D. Third row is Neo and Venom. Fourth row, Cohen and Varkey. Fifth row, Carsbury and Lemon, but of course that's going to change in the midst of qualifying. Killer Blue and Coutinho on the 6th row, 7th row, Quicksilver and Chapelele, and on his own on the 8th row so far is Perpetuum, but he's just started his flying lap now as he makes his way through Abbey and Farm Corner.
Yeah, doing really good through Abbey and Farm, and then in towards the village section through turn 3, and then into the loop at turn 4. Through Aintree at turn 5. Aintree, of course, actually a replica of the Aintree circle that used to be at the Aintree Grand National, the Grand National racetrack that is now the racecourse there. That used to be, of course, a former Formula One circuit, I think. 26.8 through the first sector from Perpetuum, looking not too bad coming through Luffield and Brooklands there, as Twitch Lemon has left the session out on track. Perpetuum now through Woodcote and on the run up towards the old turn 1. Not looking too bad so far. Just flies through there. 188 mile an hour carried through, and now towards Maggots and Beckett. These two formidable corners, left, and right. It's like you're trading punches with Ricky Hatton, to be honest. It's the only British boxer I could think of. 101.1 through the middle sector for Perpetuum. Not looking too bad at all. Recon out on top, Short second. Medium Pilot still in third. I'm a D fourth. Neo in fifth. But where is Perpetuum going to be in amongst the big boys? As he comes now round towards the final couple of corners, it's about 9 seconds from that Rolex sign. They go under that. It's about 9 seconds. I think he's just picked up an invalidation, though. He literally did what I did in time trial, across the line, and it's an invalid lap, but it's a 124 flat. It would have put him, I think, pole, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it probably would have done, but yeah, he just took too many liberties with that inside curb there, going in towards the club corner section, and invalidates that lap time. And that is something that they're going to have to watch out for, the drivers. The stewards here are not so nice with those track limits, as Venom now starts a new flying lap. He flies his way through Farm and then on towards this village section. Bit of a lock-up in towards village and now in towards the loop there. And it's one of the slowest corners on the track. You see there Venom put it down to first, then quickly shift up to second and third to reduce that wheel spin on the exit, as he now shifts all the way up to 8th gear as he now makes his way towards that Brooklands corner, using all that curve on the right-hand side. He's gone a tenth quicker than his own personal best through the first sector, now going in towards Luffield. And of course, James, we've seen it in the past. It's almost a similar corner to the Canadian Grand Prix at the hairpin at turn 10. There's lots of different ways you can take that corner.
There is lots of ways you can take that corner, and there's quite a few ways, I think, certainly. There is Venom out on track, and you can take that a number of ways, I think, out on track. I was on board with Schiaparelli, that's why I'm fumbling over my words a little bit. Schiaparelli, oh, Venom spun!
Well, that's not going to help his lap time, is it? But he does keep it out of the wall at least, finding the gravel trap, and he won't appreciate seeing that back on stream. But anyway, he has now rejoined there, but yeah, that's going to be a little bit of a punch to the gut there for Venom, as the back end just seemed to lose it as the high-speed change of direction. The car just simply didn't grip down, and that can happen. If the rear end especially doesn't like it, you can spin up those rear tyres very, very easily. But back to the pit lane for Venom, new set of tyres, and I'm sure he'll be back out on track.
Very similar to Kvyat, I think, in 2020, obviously at the British Grand Prix this season, where he had the tyre failure and he had the puncture and it just snapped off him. It seems very similar to that. I can only draw a comparison to that. Carsby ran the final corner, coming across the line now. He does improve 25.1, I should say, 0.8 improvement on his lap. Killably was also out there on a lap 101.3 through the middle sector. I believe Medium Pilot has just started a lap as well. Is he on set of softs?
Yeah, I think he is, you know. Imadi, meanwhile, currently 4th place as he clips a little bit of the curb there on the entrance in towards that long right-hander. And so we now make our way in through Vale, now in towards that long club corner section. It seems like it goes on forever, but it's all about keeping that wheel spin down. Well, Imadi then goes 2nd place, 124.1 from Imadi, and he puts himself now onto the front row of the grid.
Yeah, looking good there, Imadi. He had a really good qualifying session a couple of rounds ago, I think, in Baku, where he really shined there. Not so much in France, but doing a fantastic job, 24.1. He goes 2nd ahead of M Short. M Short, I believe, is also out on a lap. But I'm on board with the championship leader, Medium Impala, who's just flown through Copse at 190 mile an hour, now coming through Maggots and Beckett, and this championship leader is on the money, a 10th of a second up through the first sector. I think he's going to set a 101, a 23, I should say, out on track, and he's 4 tenths up nearly. Medium Impala is absolutely gunning this lap. Don't be surprised if you see a 23.7, a 23.8 at this. He runs wide, just coming through the exit of Stowe, but now in towards Vale and then into Club through the final 2 corners, looking very nice on the curb, just clatters it slightly, but Medium Pilot across the line, and a James Head prediction comes right, 23.7.
Great lap there from Medium Pilot. Meanwhile, M Short comes across the line to improve on his lap time. He now goes into the 24 zeros and puts himself now back onto the front row. Matthias has now joined into the session, so we will have 16 people in this qualifying session. And just looking at the time there and how quickly it's all gone by, less than 6 minutes to go in this qualifying session. We're still waiting for lap times from Schiaparelli and Papetum at this moment in time, but Cugino is running wide there, going through that long right-hander, and unfortunately for him, he's heading back to the pit lane, 12th place on a 25.6. What exactly is going on with him, James? It doesn't seem like it's clicking just yet.
Lack of practice, I think, possibly down to. He's 5 tenths off the back of Carlsbury. He's there in 12th position, 25.6. I know he will improve on that lap. I know he can go a lot quicker. I think he knows he can go a lot quicker as well. Papetum through the first sector, 26.7 coming through the first sector, now through Brooklands, then through Luffield, takes the wide-out approach deep into the corner. Beautiful exit there from Papetum. Could have taken that a little bit quicker, if I've got to be honest, as Matthias now joined into the session in the Mercedes, and Papetum down towards the old turn 1. Turn 9 now around this Silverstone circuit, and Papetum halfway through the lap flies through at 190 mile an hour through Copse, then through Maggots and Beckett, 4 minutes and 45 seconds on the clock. And Papetum will be hoping to go in and around Medium Pilot. He just gets wide coming through Chapel, but it's not a bad lap. It's a 1 minute point 1 flat through the middle sector, and he's about 2 or 3 tenths off, I think, in Medium Pilot sort of laps. So he's going to be in and around M Short Recon sort of area. His invalid lap was a 1:23, and I think he's just invalidated actually out of Stowe. He's back into the pit lane with just over 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, unfortunate there. That was looking like a good lap time from Papetum there, but we'll jump straight on board with Venom, who's just under 1/10 quicker than his own personal best. And will it bite on him this time around? You can see he was a lot less confident going in towards Beckett's there. The back end still did want to step out on him, so maybe he's got a different setup going on that other drivers just simply don't have. But at the moment, he's now flying his way in through Stowe Corner, and I think he's going to back out of that one. There's something not quite right on that car at the moment, and it's something to do with that rear of the car. It just doesn't seem to want to stick in the high-speed corners, and that means he doesn't have a lot of confidence in it. He doesn't have a lot of confidence in it. That means he can't go as quickly as he wants.
And I don't think he can change his setup as well because of parc fermé regulations here in Formula 1. I don't think he can change that rear end, so he's going to be stuck with that, I think, throughout qualifying and during the race as well. So hopefully he'll come back to his brilliant best. I'm sure he will. He's been really good last week, of course, in France, getting that double overtake done. Varkey 25 flat, currently on his lap time 10th. For him, he's on an out lap. He'll be the first, I think, to start off on a lap, as Matthias is showing out there, but I think he's on an out lap, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he is.
He is indeed, as we now see Varkey making his way in towards the final couple of corners, as he now tries to get his way through that club corner section. He's about to start his flying lap, currently 10th place at that 25.0, as he now makes his way on through Abbey and then through Farm and through the right and then through the left. As you see there, it's a lot of undulation changes in the first two corners alone, as Varkey now tries to make his way in through Village and now in towards the loop there. A bit of a lock up on entry and just near the apex as well to try and get that car slowed down, as he now makes his way through Aintree and on towards the Wellington straight. Short run up towards Brooklands, and that's the end of the first sector. 27.0, that's 400th down on his own personal best. So at the moment, lapping in the mid to high, I was going to say, mid to high, low 25s. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, Kieran. Varkey then making his way now on through Luffield and now in towards Woodcote, and now that legendary Cops Corner coming up, and that car just sticking to the ground there. Aerodynamics in full display as he now makes his way through Maggots and then through Beckett's, and you'll see from this angle that car sticking down to the road, that aero working beautifully on that Williams car. He now makes his way across the sector 2 line, 800ths down, so something's not quite right. He's closed his DRS, he's backed out of that lap.
Yeah, he has backed out of that lap, and I think with 1 minute and 45 seconds he may as well, because he's only got one more crack at it really to get a good lap in. Quicksilver is out there through the first sector. He's 700ths up on his personal best. He's got a Ferrari of Colesbury, I think, in front of him. He ducks out to the way to the left-hand side there, coming through Luffield. And now Quicksilver, who I think might just nab a top 3 for some reason. He might just nab it, and he's through Woodcote and on the one down towards Cops. Not looking too bad so far on his lap. He hits Cops, he runs wide there, but takes a lot of exit curb. That's very nice there from Quicksilver. Now through Maggots, Beckett's, these two corners really do fly up at you through 12, 13, 14, and then on the run down towards 10, 15 at Stowey's 2 up through this middle sector, so Quicksilver's having a good time. Coginio, I think, has just improved up into 5th, so good luck there by the German, 24.2, and Quicksilver will be the next to come across the line. There was a Williams in front of him, I think, of Recon, who might be just starting up on a lap, or Varkey that is just starting up on a lap, or I'm just blind and that's a racing point. Quicksilver ran the final corner, and he goes 8th, 24.4, and I don't think he'll be able to find another improvement out of that. He's backed off.
Yeah, that was actually Varkey around going in through, I think I was heading towards Aintree there. That was the car you saw off the track, and unfortunately for him, I don't think he's not going to have enough time to get his way back around and start a new flying lap, unfortunately for him. So that will be his qualifying session over and done with. But at this moment in time then, we've got Medium Pilot, who's making his way in towards Vale and Club Corner. 23.7 from the Mercedes driver so far, 3/10 clear of anybody else. Recon retires from the session. He says there's no more I can do, or if there is, there's no more time. Medium Pilot's had to back out of his because I reckon this and next lap was invalidated, so he will not be able to set another lap time. So 23.7 is the time to beat then. M Short is on a flying lap. He's just making his way through Cops Corner. As there you can see, confirmation, Medium Pilot has now retired from the session. There's Ima D who's out there, but he's invalidated his lap time, so he won't get another shot at that one. Venom across the line, he finishes in 6th place in this qualifying session. We've got an Alfa Romeo making their way towards the line. I believe that's Chapalele as he now makes his way in through Club Corner and onwards towards that start finish line, up to 5th place for the Alfa Romeo driver. Managed to grab that lap time as clutch as he possibly could going through there. Neo's a 10th quicker than his previous best. This could be a good one for P7, maybe even higher. It is higher. P5 then for Neo as he now puts himself onto the 3rd row of the grid. We've got a McLaren coming towards the line. And M Short falls short.
So close.
23.8 then from the McLaren driver. Can't quite do enough to get that lap time better. We've got Ahmadi, who's invalidated his lap time and will take no further part in this one. Quicksilver runs out of fuel, so he will not be setting a lap time. Perpetta, meanwhile, invalidates the lap time. He'll start P16 in this session for the AlphaTauri driver and takes his frustration out on the wall just beyond of pit lane. But to me, that's another 2 points then to Medium Pilot in his championship tirade. 110 points he stands on now. M Short, the only other driver into the 123s with that 23.8. And I have to say, Medium Pilot on pole once again. 5 out of 6 attempts for Medium Pilot. And that's resulted in that pole position. But another 2 points for him, James.
Yeah, really good, I think, from Medium Pilot. M Short came so close. If he got a better run coming out of Beckett, he would have got him, I think. He was so quick coming through Maggots and Beckett. It's just on the exit of the chapel where he didn't. But Medium Pilot out on top from M Short in second. Recon in third. Ahmadi in fourth. Neo in fifth. Look at how close it is, though, between Recon, Ahmadi, Neo, Chapelelli. Barely a hair's breadth between them. 300th of a second between third to sixth. Killer Blue there in 7th with Kaginio 8th, Venom in 9th, only 4,000ths off from Kaginio as well. Cohen in 10th, Quicksilver 11th, Matthias in 12th. Good lap from him, coming in about 5 minutes from the end, 24.5. Cosby in 13th, Varkey 14th, Twitch, Lemon and Papetum, the two Germans, start on the 8th row of the grade, right at the back in the sister cars.
Yeah, Papetum will be really frustrated with that one because that lap time could have got him up into that top 10 and beyond. He will certainly not be looking back at that qualifying session with fondness, but he starts at the back of the grid, but he'll have his own tyres to choose from. He'll have a fresh set of tyres to put onto the car, whereas everyone inside the top 10, of course, have to start on the tyre they set their fastest lap on in qualifying. So they will start on a scrub set of soft tyres.
Oh.
But that's probably why, because it is raining here and it looks like it's going to be intermediates that's going to start this race, unless anyone is mad enough to see what the tries are like at this point in time. As per the regulations, you have to start the formation lap on the same tyres you were planning to start the race. You can't do a Marcus Winkelhock anymore, unfortunately, because the amount of radio communication that's involved in that, the team simply won't be ready. So it is slightly raining here, bit of light rain, should spice up the action, James.
Yeah, it's not a British Grand Prix without a bit of rain, is it? Yeah. I'm not too fond of the rain around here. I prefer a dry race, but intermediate conditions for these guys. The track definitely looks quite wet out there, so there's going to be a lot of spray kicking up, and it's about 75 litres, I think, that these tyres can dispose of. So there's going to be quite a bit of a dry line, I think, coming through. There's a bit of brakes in the cloud as well, but the formation lap is just about to begin with that lovely Mercedes Medium Pilot and that lovely McLaren of M Short filling out the front row of the grid.
Yeah, and it's the intermediate tyres here. It's the wet weather tyres, actually, that are able to displace anywhere between 70 and 80 litres of water per second. That's right, per second. When it comes to the intermediate tyres, as Medium Pilot's already gone off the track. They're already being caught out by these conditions. As yet, you can see he's spinning up those rear tyres. Probably get some heat in them as well. The intermediate tyres can displace between around about 25 to 30 litres of water, so they really only should be used for these changeable conditions. If there's any standing water out on track, or if there are any puddles, that's a surefire sign that it is time for those wet weather tyres. But looking at the grid here, you'll be able to see, you should be able to see, once I've got that graphic up, yep, everybody's starting on a set of the intermediate tyres to get this race underway. That means then if it rains all the way through, then expect the drivers to try and pull off the one stop. They'll probably stop just about before the halfway mark, so we're expecting the pit window to open about lap 11, possibly then close on lap 14. It's very rare for drivers to try and keep tyres like this going in the race, because although you can set consistent laps on them, James, with no real harm in the delta time, you don't want to be on a scrub set of inters, especially when you're coming up against someone on brand new ones.
Yeah, definitely not. I think the new inters obviously will come into play. Just trying to have a look at the weather and see if there's anybody that has put in a weather forecast within the chat. Now, I'm going to have a look quickly at this. And people predicting there's going to be a huge crash in turn 1. Combi, that was, predicting a huge crash in turn 1. Hi, James and Kieran, do a good job tonight. That is Malk, of course, who commentated you through CWC last night. He's in there in the chat. Great to see you back, Malk. It is fantastic to see you here in the comment section. But we are just moments away. And you know what? It's not a stream without a top 3 for me. I'm going to go Medium Pilot for the win, Recon for second, and Papetum for third.
So Perpetuum from 16th to 3rd is the huge prediction on the table then from Mr. James Head. Well, let's see if his prediction comes true. With light rain here in Silverstone, wouldn't be the British Grand Prix without a little bit of light dusting of rain to get ourselves off the mark. But there's your championship leader. Another 2 points for Medium Pilot. Takes his tally now up to 110 for the season so far, as we're now at that midpoint in the season. Medium Pilot on pole position with M Short there in second place, just alongside. And as we wait for those red lights to signal the start of the British Grand Prix, it is 5 red lights. We're racing in Silverstone, and what are the starts like? It's going to be a lot of wheel spin off the line then, but it looks like Medium Pilot's got a good start. So too has M Short, but there is Recon trying to go round the outside in towards turn 1 as they now try and file their way through, in through Farm, in now, in towards that village section, in towards the third turn. Medium Pilot got a fantastic start, really warmed up those rear tyres, didn't he? And has managed to use them to good effect. Recon is all over now the back of M Short as we now make our way in through Aintree and onwards now towards the Wellington Straight. Killer Blues moved up a position. He's now up to 6th place.
Yeah, a lot going on in the background, a lot of Constantino effect coming through the village section and into Aintree, but everyone seems quite clean. Venom has got the move done on Killer Blue, and Caganio's around the outside of Quicksilver coming through Brooklands. Can he get the car stopped? No, and I think Quicksilver might get the exit coming through for 11th position, but Medium Pilot is shot away out in front.
He has indeed, and he really did warm up those rear tyres, didn't he? We were seeing him try and go side by side, pretty much booting the throttle there as he tried to make his way through. Meanwhile, Matthias didn't get the greatest start in the world, but he's just sent it up the inside of Cohen there, going in towards Copse Corner. No remorse there from him. Meanwhile, Lemon here, who had doubts about starting this race, is starting this race. He's currently in 10th place as we now file our way through, in through that Maggots and Beckett section. Got a big tank slapper on there as Perpetuum now moves up to 12th place.
Yeah, Caganio just tapped the back of Quicksilver in front of him, and it's now 3 wide running down the straight. Matthias, there's contact, Marky! Matthias, and Caganio's been caught up in that as well. That might be a VSC, that might be a safety car, who knows? Cohen caught up in that as well. So unfortunate. And Cohen, actually, there's been a little bit of a tap. Quicksilver, I think, got tapped by Perpetuum as well.
Yeah, well, it looked like a little bit of a Constantine effect, looked like a little bit messy going in towards Copse Corner there. However, Medium Pilot still leads the way. Don't be fooled, we are still on the second lap of this race. Recon in second, Neo is into third place. So M Short is in a little bit of trouble. He's currently ghosted at the moment, but that's probably because he's the one actually in second place as he now goes firmly back onto the leaderboard there. Recon, that makes him in third place as the order will be reshuffled at the end of the second lap. Meanwhile, Lemon gets up the order as there's a little bit of an incident in the background. We've got yellow flags, and that's Carlsbury, who's now lost a bit of front wing on the left-hand side. Now, that's going down the Wellington Straight. That's not normally a place you see a car go off.
I can only think he's had contact with another driver, possibly, because Cohen and him, I think, were battling coming through the first sector. That's why the yellow flags were. And Cosby now, with that left side end plate damage, sadly is going to have to try and troop that back around, maybe to try and continue, maybe to try and come into the pit lane and re-put on that front wing. Schiaparelli is on the back of Killer Blue, coming through Maggots and Beckett as well. The Alfa Romeo against the Racing Point for 7th and 8th position out on track. Very good solo. Medium Pilot does lead. M Short is in second. Perpetuum, after getting caught up in that contact, is up to 10th.
Yeah, that's an amazing job from him so far. Maybe third place isn't too far off the cards there for the James Head prediction, as Carlsbury now loses even more positions as he struggles there with that Maggots and Beckett section. Still on board with Schiaparelli, at least on my camera angles. There's a big lock-up going in towards Vale there, now tiptoeing our way through. That is a really accurate word as we head our way through Club Corner. And you can just see on board with Schiaparelli, even in these intermediate conditions, it is quite difficult to see the car in front, what with all the spray going about, as we now make our way through Abbey, through Farm.
Perpetuum!
Village once again.
Perpetuum's lost it through Abbey, coming on board with him. It is disastrous for Perpetuum. There goes my top 3 prediction right down the drain. Perpetuum round, coming through turn 1. And that is really the end of his race, I think, and that's the end of his chance. He's got a 10-second time penalty for exceeding track limits. That is bound to be taken off.
Yeah, surely it will be, because if he's lost the car there, how can he possibly gain 10 seconds? Venom, meanwhile, is on the back of Neo. Now, we saw Venom in that race, in that qualifying session, James. That rear end looked a little bit unstable. He didn't look comfortable with that setup on the rear wing. Was that because he was running less downforce for these wet weather conditions? Something doesn't add up there.
Yeah, I think might be, to be honest, because he's in the Racing Point sandwich at the minute. He's catching onto the back of Neo, and he's pulled away from Killer Blue as well. It's about 6.5 tenths to be right on board with Killer Blue, certainly from my end. Medium Pilot does lead M Short second, Recon in third. We're nearly through the end of lap 4. I'm a D still there in fourth. The Scotsman doing well once again. Here comes Venom though on the back of Neo, and he's got the overtake mode out. He's just turned off the overtake mode, and he's not going to lunge one down the inside in towards Stowe. Unlike last season where I think he tried to get the move done, or certainly in TTL, as he fights the back end coming out of Stowe, but he still remains in P6 for now. Twitch Lemon getting a little bit sideways coming out of Stowe as well.
Yeah, Matthias there is trying to get onto the back of Varky then. Meanwhile, M Short has just set the fast lap of this race. It was set by a medium pilot, but then M Short just took it straight back off him. Currently second place in this race so far, with Recon rounding off the top 3. And then it's anybody's guess for P4 at this moment. Those 5 places from P4 down to P8 separated by what I'm going to guess is around about 2 seconds. So it's great to see such close battling in these tricky conditions. Who's not affected by this? Who's not affected by this pressure is medium pilot M Short there, who are just trying to pull away Cugino, picking up a 3-second time penalty.
Neo's just made a mistake. Venom Neo under attack coming in towards Brooklands. Venom right on the back of him. I think he ran wide just coming out of Aintree and onto the Wellington Straight. Unfortunately, he ran wide too much, and that now means Venom is right on the back of him, and he's got a bit of a train behind him as well. Killer Blue and Chapelelli have now lashed onto the back. Here comes Venom, trying to get the move done down the inside and towards Corpse. I don't think it's going to be there. Chapelelli as well, right on the back of Killer Blue. These two old foes going at it once again. But that little bit of a train from Recon spanning downwards towards Lemon has just split up kind of a bit, because Recon and D now are fighting out for third. And Neil's mistake has just forced the guys back, as Quicksilver has picked up a 3-second time penalty, as has Cugino, as has Perpetuum, and Quicksilver is round, and there's a safety car.
Safety car deployed then, so where is that? That's on
that's well off track. That's well off track.
Yeah, so unfortunately then for the McLaren driver, he's now out of the British Grand Prix. So that is Quicksilver, who will not be scoring any points in today's race. So the safety car deployed then as we begin lap number 5. Medium pilot then is still in the lead of this one and will remain in the lead. He'll be picked up by the virtual Bernd Mailander. And of course, what this means is then we're not going to see many pit stops, if any. As I say that, Varky and Cugino come straight into the pits. So too does Perpetuum. Actually, are they thinking about the road ahead? Because of course they've got the whole race possibly on these intermediate tyres. Are they going to put on another set of inters to get to the end? I wonder. There's Quicksilver leaving the session. I believe that's another set of intermediates for the Red Bull of Cugino. On go, another set of inters. So this could be one where they're trying to get to the end of the race. It's going to be a huge, ambitious target. But hey, they're all the way down the order. They might as well try something different.
It could be that, or it could be that it's due to dry up later on in the race. And if that's the case, if they've come into the pit lane now, they would expect the dry compound of tyres to come into effect around lap 17, lap 18, which does mean they will get to the end of the race from that inters onto a set of dry compound of tyres. Now, my imagination is that it's going to be light rain for a good 20-25 minutes or so, then it's going to dry up possibly. So these guys might have just predicted the future, essentially, with the dry compound of tyres all going on. Varky, Perpetuum, Cugino coming out in 12th, 13th, 14th after their pit stops. Carlsbury there down in 15th, having to stick to Delta. But everyone is under the safety car. It's lap 5 out of 26 here at Silverstone. And Medium Pilot does lead the way, M Short in second. But at this point, Medium Pilot, his lead that he had, his commanding advantage that he had over M Short has just completely evaporated away within this safety car period. Would that give Short and Recon and behind a distinctive advantage?
Well, it could do, because you know, it's in these safety car conditions. They've now been brought back into play, straight back into play. So watch out for them as they restart this race very, very shortly. But meanwhile, what that does mean then is that, well, beforehand we had Perpetuum, who we saw spun out, and of course he was all the way down the order. Now he's got a second chance of coming back into this race. He does have a 10-second time penalty next to his name, but that's a penalty he can appeal if he wants to. So don't take that for face value. That could change as we head towards the steward's office later on tonight, and of course into tomorrow as well. Carlsbury obviously had that front wing damage somewhere down the Wellington Straight. Now he's come back in and put on a new set of tyres, new front wing of course, and now he gets to rejoin at the back of the pack in P15, so another chance for him, lucky enough to pick the number 13 car to go racing in. Bit unorthodox there, but it seems to be one of his favourite numbers, so we'll leave him to it. So Medium Pilot obviously trying to keep these tyres up to temperature. And of course there's a lower operating window for the intermediate tyres. They only need to operate around about 45 to 50 degrees, and at that point still you need to keep the tyres up to temperature. In these treacherous conditions it's very easy for these tyres to reduce in temperature. So those first couple of laps are literally going to be tiptoeing around, as we saw at the real life Turkish Grand Prix. The reason why some of these drivers stayed out was because although they were wearing them down to the canvas, they basically became slicks again with a lower operating temperature. So that was a really smart move from those who stayed out and predicted that that was going to happen. But as you see here, Medium Pilot desperately trying to get some heat into the tyres, as Vaki there has now a 5-second time penalty for a severe collision with Matthias.
He's
got front wing damage.
Yeah, right side end plate damage. Vaki, I think he's just gone into the back of him. Maybe a bit of a slowing from Cohen in front has brought him into the back. I think the safety car might be coming in this lap. It should have the lights out around about this point here, coming through Chapel, and on the way down towards the hangar straight. Perfectly on time.
Perfectly on time. You're a bit psychic, James. I'm a bit worried at this moment in time. However, that means then Medium Pilot will lead the pack down in through Stowe at his own pace. Now, as long as he keeps this speed and it stays consistent, that's absolutely fine. Bit of that one with Vaki into the back of Matthias. Obviously, it's a bit of a tricky one, because if you're the car behind and you're trying to follow that car in front, it is going to be always on the car behind to keep that front wing out of the rear diffuser of the car ahead. Medium Pilot, as you say, James, has definitely bolted right now, pretty early on, I have to say, in the lap, and he's trying to get racing underway once again. Medium Pilot will lead the field around, and he's absolutely gone for it. M Short just cannot keep up through the final couple of corners, and Medium Pilot has now built a 1.6 second lead just out of that safety car restart. Shapalele, meanwhile, was on the back of Killer Blue. We've got action all up and down the field. Venom, I thought, was going to have a look up the inside there of the car ahead in Neo, but that doesn't quite happen. There's a bit of action going on behind. Perpetum now moves up to P12 as Vaki, he gets a little bit onto the grass there as Carsbury now sneaks away up the inside. Can he try and hold on to that one? No, he can't quite get the traction down there. Meanwhile, at the front of the field then, 5th place. Oh, there's Neo who's around, and so too is Venom. Oh, and there's a huge collision there for Shapalele, who was just an innocent bystander there. He went into the front of Neo there as he was spun around. Huge front wing damage. He went straight on. I don't know whether it was the contact between himself and Neo that caused his retirement, or whether he continued on into the wall and retired as a result. But there's yellow flags in Sector 2 at this moment, and a virtual safety car has been deployed.
Yeah, VSC, Chapelletti's car is still there, stranded basically where the entrance to the old pit lane is. So that is so unfortunate for Chapelletti. Again, just called up an innocent bystander. I really didn't see that, because I was watching on board with Carsbury. He did get the move done on Cagino. He was looking on the back of Vaki coming through Brooklands and then into Luffield. Couldn't complete the move. But really good racing out on track. Niels picked up a 5-second penalty for ignoring the yellow flag, and that is a bit harsh, I think, to be honest. Vaki now up into the top 10 positions, but it brings everyone now down to about 40% speed. Medium Pilot still out on top, M Short second, Recon and third. I wish there was a full safety car, because I would have liked that gap for Medium Pilot to come back down, to be honest.
Vaki.
Yep, go on.
Vaki's got a drive-through penalty for speeding under the VSC, so that'll have to be served within the next 3 laps. So now Neo and Venom, they are penalised. They're boxed with penalties for speeding in the pit lane. That's 5 seconds added to those. Neo retires from the session, so there was a sense of he didn't really matter anyway. But for Venom, that means then he has that 5 seconds added to his next pit stop, if he does make another one, of course. Matthias now right on the back of Cohen as we now make our way in through this Aintree left-hander, and now onto the back straight, onto the Wellington straight. In the slipstream is Matthias. Remember, he was looking for a good result here today. He really only got one qualifying lap in, now currently in 8th place. As you can see there, Perpetum in 9th as they head through Luffield, looking for a move up the inside. Matthias took a deeper line to try and make sure he gets the better exit out of the corner, which is exactly what's happened for the Mercedes driver. They now fly their way through Woodcote and now towards Copse Corner. In the dry in qualifying, you can take this pretty much flat out. You can see here the drivers having to take an older line through there by having to change down in order to keep on and holding the grip, making our way through now. But Medium Pilot still leads, then M Short in 2nd place. Imad is trying to challenge for 3rd place with Recon in that position right now. It's Killer Blue in 5th, Lemon in 6th, Cohen 7th, Matthias in 8th, Perpetum 9th, Varkey in 10th place, but he's got a drive-through penalty to serve. Here comes Cugino then, who's in the slipstream. Carlsbury's right behind as well. Here goes Cugino to the right-hand side of the track, then down we go towards Stowe. The Red Bull's got the inside line, and Perpetum there is, Varkey's looking his way through now. Cugino gets the move done, and Varkey can't find his way through. He's heading into the pits now, and I wonder if this is to serve his drive-through penalty. He was battling a long time. Maybe he's just thinking, let's get this drive-through out of the way, and let's see what I can do heading through the field at this moment in time. Of course, it's one of the worst pit lanes to have a drive-through penalty because it's so slow through the pit lane, and it's so early on you have to hit the limiter as well. Looks like the Williams crew are ready for a stop. Now, he's coming into the pit lane. Does he stop? Yes, he does. So this doesn't count as a drive-through. They're going to change his front wing. He's also got a 5-second stop-go penalty to serve before the team can get to work on the car. They do. So they're going to change the front wing first. Then he's going to have to serve his drive-through penalty a lap or two later. So he's really opting for a healthy car to then take the penalty rather than go for another lap with an unhealthy car.
He's going to be cost at least 45 seconds, I think, by my reckoning, because it's about a 28-second pit stop from the entrance into the pit lane down into the pit stop, and he's already been overtaken by Venom, and he's still got that drive-through penalty to serve. It's going to be so dastardly, I think, for Varkey. So unlucky, I think, to pick up that drive-through. I'm over with Imad. Imad is really challenging Recon for this 3rd position, and Killer Blue is beginning to latch onto the back of these guys as well. He's beginning to come into this slowly but surely. He's just eking into that advantage, and Twitch Lemon is not too far off either, but Imad not going for the move down in towards Copse. Still, though, the Scotsman Hunt on the back of the Dutchman for 3rd.
Absolutely, we're still on the 9th lap of this race so far as Imad gets a bit of a lock up there as we head our way in towards that Vale section, then in towards Club Corner. Imad half a second back from Recon as we make our way through that final corner, and onwards now towards the start-finish straight as we once again head our way towards Abbey and Farm for the 10th time in this race. Medium Pilot leads from M Short in 2nd place. Cooking, they're setting the fastest lap of the race in 9th place. Bit of clear air for him, and now he's setting some really good lap times on the board. Just to take you through some of these position changes, as you can see, the top 4 are as they qualified, really. Lemon is up 9 places with Perpetum up 8. Of course, Perpetum didn't set a lap time in qualifying, or at least a valid lap time, I should say, in qualifying. So we started all the way at the back of the field. And looking at the stops, this is the important one. Perpetum, Cugino, Carlsbury and Venom have all made 1 stop. Varkey has made 2 stops. That will go up to 3 as he's just entering the pit lane now to serve his drive-through penalty.
Which is a shame, that drive-through penalty obviously not been noticed. But Matthias, remember Matthias, he joined about 5 minutes before the end of the session, came out onto an outlap and only set, I think, 1 lap on that tyre. He's in 7th as well. He's got a 5-second time penalty to his name. Perpetum's got 10 seconds because of him running wide after that spin coming through turn 1 at Abbey. Cugino's got 3 seconds, Venom's got 5 seconds. Varkey has now served up that drive-through. He's halfway down the pit lane now. But Perpetum still on the back of Matthias. Matthias gets slightly sideways. Perpetum has now got a chance to come at him down towards Stowe. But it's best you're not right on board with me with this one because he's not going to go for the move.
Yeah, it's just a little bit too far back as we head our way in towards Stowe Corner. And Stowe is an overtaking opportunity, but you really have to be brave going through there. You have to really rely on the aero and slowing you down for the corner as well. Imad, a little bit of a kick out of the back end, and that's another car out. That's Carlsbury who's out of the race now.
And that's coming out of Stowe, so I think he's lost the car. There's another VSC out on track as well, so this reduces the speed down to 40%. If the guys were not down the pit straight and it came out 20-30 seconds earlier, I think they would have been into the pit lane possibly to go to the end of the race on that set of intermediate tyres, I think. But Cohen is one of those that is coming into the pits in 10th.
Yep, so he's now into the pit lane. So, yeah, as you rightly said, James, I think this is drivers now who are coming into the pits to now change onto a fresh set of inters to get to the end of the race.
Is the rain beginning to stop as well? It looks a bit lighter.
does look slightly lighter, but it is still raining out there here in Silverstone. Here comes Cohen into the pits then in his Renault garage, and of course a new set of intermediate tyres go on, and away he goes, and go out there for another few laps then on these intermediate tyres. Of course, the teams only get 4 sets of intermediate tyres throughout the entire weekend, quote unquote, and they only get 3 sets of full wet tyres. We're back under green flag racing, by the way, and Recon, Imedy and Killer Blue and also Lemon get to resume their battle for 3rd place. Matthias gets to resume his battle in his defence of 7th place from Papetin behind.
M Short, by the way, gained 6/10 of a second underneath that VSC restart as well. Really flew out the traps, and Medium Pilot got closed down by about 6/10 of a second. Imedy trying to close in on Recon, Killer Blue trying to close in on Imedy, Lemon trying to close in on Killer Blue. Nobody close enough for any sort of moves down in towards Stowe. It's one of these races where I think something might just be bubbling underneath the surface, I think.
Yeah, Killer Blue's just come into the pit lane then from 5th place, and on the 11th lap he decides to come in for a fresh set of intermediate tyres. Imedy, meanwhile, got a huge tank slapper just coming in towards, on the exit of Stowe, I should say, so maybe a little bit of tyre wear coming into play at this moment in time. Again, a loss of back end coming out of Farm Corner. My goodness, that was a bit of a close one there. So Imedy pretty confident in his setup. The only problem is he's probably burning up his rear tyres as well.
Which is a shame, I think, because he's driving such an astute race, I think. Recon is under pressure. He's a second off. If that was DRS, he would be out of DRS range. Lemon is right in there as well. And Killer Blue, before he came into the pit stop, I was just about to say before he came in, he was looking quicker out of those 3 guys, I think, out on track. So Killer Blue, I think, might be the one to watch. If he can get an undercut from these guys, Recon is only, what's that, about 27 seconds up the road. That's the length of a pit stop around here. Killer Blue could have the lot.
You could do, indeed. And of course, 4 retirements so far in this race. Quicksilver retiring from the race. Shapalele getting caught up in an incident that really just wasn't his fault at all. Wrong place at the wrong time meant he was out of the race. Neo also out. He retired in the pit lane on his own accord. And Carlsbury, we just seen the latest retirement, having a spin just on the exit of on the exit of Stowe. And he found himself out of the race and on for an early shower. Meanwhile, these drivers out here are on for the ongoing shower we've got here over the Silverstone circuit. And as you just see from that little bit of a short shot there on board with Imedy, those umbrellas are still out in force. So it's pretty clear that the rain is staying around at this moment in time. Coutinho picking up a 3-second time penalty. Meanwhile, M Short is into the pit lane.
Pit window is open as well, lap 13 to 21 it shows on the intermediate, so it's quite a long and excessive pit window, but he's now out of the pit lane. Killer Blue is just coming through Stowe, so this might actually be quite close, possibly, between Killer Blue and the rest of the guys. Imedy, Twitch, and Recon especially. He's going to be nowhere near M Short. M Short is already coming out towards the end of the pit lane. He's there in 8th. Killer Blue is in there in 9th. He's around the final corner. The gap, I think, coming out of the pit lane is going to be about 7 or 8 seconds, I think, between these two, M Short and Killer Blue. And that's enough, I feel, for Killer Blue, certainly, to try and have a go and get in an undercut on Recon, Imedy and Lemon, because they're wearing away their tyres at 6 seconds between M Short and Killer Blue. It's around that same gap, I think, between them both. And Killer Blue has certainly gained out of the pit stops, I think, so far.
He has indeed, and at the moment here, Killer Blue's made that right decision, hasn't he, to come into the pit lane, and he's got himself some free air. He's on some fresh tyres as well, and that's where you want to be at this stage of the race, on some fresh tyres, putting in some really consistent lap times, and we're seeing just that over-the-shoulder shot there from Lemon as he now makes his way on towards the Hangar Straight, trying to close in on Imedy. Just behind them, Matthias and Papetin are ready to duel it out for 5th place in this race.
Medium Pilot still staying out in front, and this begs to question whether he is going to go at least another lap on these tyres, because the guys in behind Recon, this is where it gets important, because Recon, Twitch Lemon, Papetin, all into the pit lane, I should say. Sorry, Matthias into the pit lane. Papetin still continuing on now into 3rd position out on track. I'm going to ride on board with Killer Blue though and see where he is. He's coming through Stowe. The rest of the guys are in the pit lane.
Imedy here, we're just watching him now trying to tackle Farm Abbey into Village and then in towards the loop there. Yes, it really is.
He's going to be ahead.
Loop, I promise. as we're now seeing M Short then rejoin. Is he going to be ahead? Yes, he
It's gonna be
is. So
close.
he's got himself ahead. Now Killer Blue, meanwhile, is on board with him as we now make our way in through the first corner. And is he going to be ahead then of Recon? Yes, he is. He is going in towards Village now. Killer Blue now moves up the order. He's now got a hold of P6. The only problem is now he's got a quick driver on his heels now in Recon, and Recon, we know he's no slouch. And also on top of that as well is that he's not going to take that lying down. Cohen sets the fastest lap of the race then, 136.158 from the man in the Renault as he looks to try and get back up the field once again. But Medium Pilot and Armady still expecting them into the pit lane, if you're just wondering here. Now, of course, it is a wet race, so that means that they don't have to stop in the race. You're a madman if you don't try and stop, but you technically don't have to stop in the race. You can just go on to the end if you really, really want to, if you're mad enough to do so. Be our guest. But no, the risk is too great for Medium Pilot. He's come into the pit, so I'm a D will shortly follow. He does indeed. So what that's going to mean then is Papetum is going to take the lead of this race. He made a stop very early on in this race, and I'm sure the objective now for the next 12, 11 laps is to try and keep those intermediates in good nick and try and get to the end of this race. He started in 16th place. He probably went on a strategy where he thought, I've got nothing to lose, I've got nothing to gain out of not trying this. Why don't I try it?
Yeah, it's going to be massive, massive problem, I think, later on in the race, though, because I don't think those tyres are going to go to the end of the race. He's on 9-lap-old tyres now, maybe even 10-lap-old tyres at a push. M Short, by the way, is right on the back of Medium Pilot coming out the pit lane, less than a second separating them out on track. So Medium Pilot, that undercut really did work for me, for M Short, and also for Killer Blue, who pitted a lap earlier than M Short as well. And he's landed out ahead of Recon, and I'm a D, who's just fresh out the pit lane as well.
Yeah, so that's a good strategy there. That's a good call from M Short. He rejoins right behind Medium Pilot as they now make their way in towards that long left-hander of Brooklands. In towards Luffield we go. And that McLaren looks a bit punchy now. Yellow flags in Sector 1. We've got Venom who's off into the gravel then, so that's dropped on farm. That rear end is clearly not happy with him as he now makes his way back out onto track, and no real harm done apart from a little bit of pride lost.
Yeah, that was on the other side, actually, of where Papetum lost it coming through turn 1. It's exactly the same. I think he's probably just taken too much curb, and it's ended up spinning the car. And he's went to the right-hand side as he picks up a 3-second time penalty for coming on the exit, or out of the exit. He has got front wing damage as a result, so he's had a collision with the wall. M Short, though, is right on the back of Medium Pilot.
He is indeed riding on board with him now as he makes his way now down towards Stowe Corner, of course, wearing that fantastic Michael Schumacher lid he's got on there from that mid-2000s era, one with the 7 stars on it, that absolutely shining red helmet you can see there. Absolutely brilliant to see, isn't it? As he now makes his way through. Killer Blue now picking up a 3-second time penalty, so that's going to be added to the end of his race, and of course now that finds himself further down the order. Remember, Papetum has a 10-second time penalty against his name, but we think he's going to contest that one. But at the end of this race, he'll be nowhere near the front of the pack. It's all about whether he's able to overturn that penalty. Now, we've seen 10-second penalties overturned. We've seen 5-second penalties overturned so long as they're not served. But what we have never seen is a 3-second time penalty overturned. And that is stated in the rules that if you get a 3-second time penalty, it's normally because of track limits. So they'll leave you to your own devices. You'll have to serve them no matter what. However, when it comes to anything above 3 seconds, the stewards are willing to have a look at it.
I think certainly if we call that on stream, the stewards will have a look at that. Varkey, by the way, is ahead of Venom. Venom retires coming into the pit lane after picking up that front wing damage and a 5th retirement out on track. Silverstone really taking its toll here tonight on the guys. But just coming back to what I was saying there, because Papetum has got 13 seconds worth of penalties, Coginio's got 9. That 10-second time penalty, I think, will definitely get taken off. There's no shadow of a doubt about it. I caught it certainly from my end that he picked up that 10-second time penalty. Hopefully it does. I think for the fairness, I hope it does. But if not, I can see why as well. It's just one of those things. But Papetum still doing a good job at him from Coginio in second. I don't think, though, they're going to go to the end of the race. They can only go, I think, to about lap 20, 21, and then they've got to pit for like 5-6 lap dash on those tyres, and it doesn't look like the rain's going to clear up, because I think it's actually getting heavier out on track now.
Well, the worst part of it is that if they try and get to the end now, they're in a bit of no man's land. Either they try and go to the end or they try and pit now and guarantee themselves to make it to the end, on the intermediate tyres. But as you say, James, these changeable conditions are just changing up this race every single second that passes. More rain being thrown down, less rain being thrown down, whatever the drivers have to deal with. It's just constantly going on in their heads. What's the best strategy? What do I need to do to try and get out on top in this race? Papetum and Coutinho thought stopping early is the way forward. Well, Papetum at the moment has around about a 13-second gap to himself and medium pilot, and if there's one man who needs a result, it's Papetum.
Yeah, Papetum in the front. He's about 26 points, I think, behind medium pilot coming in towards tonight. He didn't have the greatest result in France. He hasn't had the greatest race here in Britain, but he's doing a sterling job to try and get back up there in amongst the big boys. Imad is getting closed down with Twitch Lemon. I'm still on board with this battle because I find it fascinating that Lemon has not found a way through on Imad. He is there for the taking. He gets a tremendous run this time coming through Cops. As long as he can put up Maggots and Beckett's right, Imad is a sitting duck in front of him.
Well, we'll have to see. We'll have to stay on board with you for that battle, James. Take us through as they make their way now down the Hangar Straight.
I don't think he's going to be close enough, though. Running in a little bit of a DRS train, well, an overtake train, really, with obviously being wet conditions. He's still not close enough. As long as he gets a good run out, he needs to put Imad under pressure. Imad, similarly, though, he's on fresher tyres than the rest of the guys around him. He's putting Recon under pressure now, and Killer Blue's just beginning to try and escape away as well in 5th position. So this has got the markings of a good battle, but I just feel with the gap that these guys are currently showing, I don't think you're going to see any overtakes very soon.
Plenty of umbrellas still out here in force in Silverstone, but as we head on to lap 18, it is Papetum who leads the way from Coutinho in 2nd, medium pilot 3rd, with M Short in 4th, Killer Blue in 5th place, Recon in 6th, with Imad in 7th, Lemon in 8th, Matthias 9th, Cohen in 10th, and Varkey in 11th place, and Varkey's won.
Lemon spun and he's out of the race. And that might be a safety car, actually. He just lost it coming through the curve, coming through entry. And that's another VSC out on track. And that's so unfortunate. He was doing everything right. He was catching Imad. And that is him out of the race with just one silly run of the curb. And he's out of the race just like that. And I caught the full extent of it.
Just on the exit of Aintree, I'm guessing then. I didn't see it, but I'm assuming that's where it happened, as that's where his car had ended up. So unfortunate for Lemon here. And of course, he was saying around about an hour before the race he didn't think he was going to be able to make it. Well, he did make it. Unfortunately, though, no points will be scored for the Red Bull driver. What that does do, though, I was just about to come on to Varkey, because he's a man who's been really against the cosh with the virtual stewards. He got himself that damage. He got himself a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car. You can see his delta this time around is well and truly in the green. But now, as he passes now on towards the Wellington Straight, he is now in 10th place. And that's a lot better of a scenario than he was about 10 laps ago, where he was all the way down in 14th place.
Definitely is. He's in 10th position. He's going to be picking up a good haul of points. Coutinho has just picked up a drive-through penalty out on track as well. Papetum currently leading Coutinho 2nd, medium pilot 3rd, M Short 4th, Killer Blue 5th. Coutinho not really happy, I think, with that drive-through penalty. He knows I'm running on board with him as he's just weaved coming in towards Village. But Imad still quite close to the back of Recon as well. So the closest battle we have out on track. As soon as I say that, he nearly makes a mistake and then he bins it through turn 1.
That was close, wasn't it? You can just see on my screen, anyway, the penalties that have been awarded during this race. And as you can see, Papetum has got 13 seconds of penalties. So one of those penalties he won't be able to appeal against. That's that 3-second time penalty that's against his name. The one that we think he's going to be able to appeal against is the 10-second penalty. So that is going to be something he might be able to appeal against. So it might only be a 3-second time penalty. But of course, that's why we called him the official, unofficial results. Because even though it calculates all those penalties, there's still not the end of the story. But Coutinho, meanwhile, well, we're not within 5 laps of the end of the race. That means that drive-through penalty is going to have to be served in this race before the checkered flag. Now, he of course got that drive-through penalty earlier on in this lap. He's only allowed to pass that start-finish line twice more before he has to serve the penalty, and I'm sure Jeff will be reminding him of that one all the way through. Now, luckily, the pit lane speed limit line is before the start-finish line, so you don't have to worry about passing that one a third time before you get to that pit lane entrance. Coutinho, meanwhile, will be absolutely cursing that one, and it's such fine lines as well. If you are speeding, if that delta is below that point before the timer runs out, because of course you get a little bit of a timer to get back into the delta, or if you're over the delta, well, I should say over, if you're red in the delta, once the VSC ends, it's a drive-through penalty, and there isn't a lot you can do about that.
There isn't a lot you can do about that, and it's so unfortunate, I think, for Gagini, who picked up a drive-through penalty. Medium Pilot beginning to close in, but I've just clicked on. I think Papetum is going for this. Papetum now has to go to the end of the race. He's got about a 12-second advantage over Medium Pilot. It's about 12.5 seconds. That is enough. I think if those tyres really do fall off the cliff, I think that's enough for him to win this still. He could contest that 10-second time penalty and he could still win this out on track. Cagigno obviously is going to be in second, but he won't be for any longer. He's got that drive-through penalty. Medium Pilot is running in there in third. M Short there in fourth. It begs the question, we haven't got much going on out on track in terms of action. It begs the question, Papetum, is he really committed now to the full race end on those tyres?
He has to be. He has to be, of course. 7 laps from the end, he has to be getting those intermediate tyres to the end, surely now. Unless there's, of course, a safety car, a full-on safety car, at which point he might change onto a fresh set of inters. But at that point, he'd have lost so much time, and there's not enough time to gain it back. I think Papetum here is committed to the end of this race. We have 6 to go here in Silverstone, and Papetum, who's the driver that's in need of this big result, is still leading this race. But Cagigno serving his drive-through penalty means that Medium Pilot goes up to second place in the standings. And yeah, penny for his thoughts for Cagigno as he trundles his way down the pit lane. Obviously 60 kilometers per hour is the maximum speed you're allowed to do in the pit lane, so it just feels like it goes on forever as you make your way down that pit lane. So Cagigno should rejoin in 8th place. Matthias will probably pass him as he's now making his way in through Abbey now as he does. So Cagigno from second place in this race on a used set, a really worn set of intermediate tyres, now rejoins in 8th place. So now it's going to be a little bit of a stick for him there, but he'll just be trying to press on now and try and score as many points as possible from this position.
Yeah, 8th position is still picking up a good amount of points. He's got Cohen behind him on 9-lap old tyres. I don't think that gap is going to come down as much as what you would expect. 11.4 seconds is currently that gap. Varkey in 10th, 25.7. Papetum is the one, though, that is still leading this race. And Medium Pilot is beginning to eat now into that advantage. It is now a sense of the hare against the tortoise, I think. As Ahmadi's just picked up a 3-second time penalty. The hare, being Medium Pilot, is trying to chase down the tortoise in this situation, being Papetum. I hate to use that little phrase with that, but it's true. Because Papetum's on 15-lap old tyres, Medium Pilot's on 5-lap old tyres, and look at the gap. This is only going to go increasing lap upon lap, this gap. Medium Pilot might have a chance on the final lap to try and gain on him.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how that all unfolds. Meanwhile, then, Recon is trying to close in on Killer Blue. Medium Pilot has just set the fastest lap of this race, a 33.1, as he looks to try and prove a point out there. So trying to close in on Papetum with 5 laps to go. 11 seconds is the gap. So really, he needs to be closing in at more than 2 seconds per lap in order to have a chance to catch the back of Papetum, let alone try and make a pass. Recon slowly reeling in Killer Blue for 4th place in this race.
And that's on account, I think, of the fresher tyres that he is gaining. 2-lap old fresher tyres for Recon out on track. Killer Blue is there on merit in 4th position, did a fantastic undercut. He is still undercut the majority of these guys. Ahmadi, Cagigno and the likes. Obviously Twitch Lemon was one that got undercutted as well. He's out of the race. But Killer Blue's doing a fantastic job. And again, it's a real eye-catching performance from him out on track. We've got Recon right on the back of them, and Recon just had a little bit of a shoddy exit actually coming out of Luffield, and it's lost him now a second as he tries to pick up the overtake low to try and come back at him towards the end of the Hanger Straight, which will be possibly his best chance to try and have a go.
It will possibly his best chance, will it, as he now tries to make his way through. Recon trying to close in as much as he possibly can. Of course, trying and get a good result on the board. Has appeared once on the podium so far this season. That was at the Spanish Grand Prix at round number 3. He might not get a chance of a podium here today, but I tell you what, he's going to try and get as high up the order as he possibly can. We know Recon is a great driver in his own right, but Killer Blue has been in a bit of form recently. Of course, 2 back-to-back podiums, with one of them being the race win at the French Grand Prix last time out. And as you can see at the top of the table, that gap between Papetum and Medium Pilot only came down by just over 1 second. it's not enough for Medium Pilot at this rate of knots with 4 laps to go to try and catch the back of Perpetum. Perpetum here, who really does need this result. He could try and capture his first race win of the season. In fact, better than that, he might be able to try and capture his second podium of the season. His only podium so far, it was a second place at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Could he try and take his first race win of the season? Well, he's got 4 laps to go. He's got 4 laps to try and hang on to those tyres, and the delta at the moment is in his favour.
This honestly reminds me of the TTL days where we had Warren trying to chase down for P3, I think, out on track. And again, it was in the same sense where it was the hare against the tortoise. And Warren, in that case, was being the hare. And he was trying to catch one of the guys ahead, which I think might have been Perpetum, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Perpetum, though, 9.2 seconds ahead of Medium Pilot. That gap is not closing down. He might have pulled off the impossible here out on track, which is fantastic to see. But Perpetum doing an unreal job. And he still is hanging on. 3 more laps to go. I just hope those tyres are going to last. I have a feeling they're not going to.
Well, he's got now, as he crosses the line, 3 to go here in Silverstone for those tyres to try and hang on for as long as possible. And of course, at the moment, the gap's not coming down quick enough. 3 laps to go, 8 seconds for Medium Pilot to try and close in. It's almost 3 seconds a lap he's got to close in, Medium Pilot, to have a chance of getting a race win, another race win, I should say, under his belt. Keeping a close eye on Recon as well, because Imad is closing into this battle for 4th place. We're about to have a 3-way battle for 4th. The only problem with that is Imad has a 3-second time penalty, so too does Killer Blue. So Recon here could try and find himself up the order in 4th place, and the battle will be between Killer Blue and Imad to try and keep themselves ahead of each other, really, try and secure that next position.
Coginio is into the pit lane and he is putting on a fresh set of intermediate compound of tyres out on track. Perpetum is there. He is still keeping on going, coming through Cops. Medium Pilot, 7.9 seconds. That gap is beginning to close down big time now, but Perpetum is still hanging on. I really just hope those tyres have been kept in check. I can honestly see through that rear right tyre a big blister coming through that tyre, and that might mean the end for Perpetum, but I'm not going to say anything of the sort.
Yeah, you're inviting it though, aren't you? You really are invited, that one. Meanwhile, Recon is trying to keep on the back of Killer Blue. I reckon at this point, he might just be thinking, do you know what, I don't have to push as hard as possible. All I have to do is stay within 3 seconds of Killer Blue, and I've got 4th place here. He might just be hanging back at this point and just say, you know what, I can take 4th place. I'm not going to catch him short in 3rd, so I'm just going to try and settle for this 4th place. I don't have to make a really amazing move. I don't even have to make the move at all to get ahead of Killer Blue by the checker flag. The only thing he has to do is keep it between the white lines for just around about 11 more kilometres, and he's got himself 4th place in this race. Gap between the leaders right now. Perpetum leading the way. 7 seconds at this moment in time between himself and Medium Pilot. The more laps that go by, the more laps that tick by, the more that Medium Pilot has to close in. So what that means is Perpetum is not being closed in at the rate Medium Pilot wants to close him in at. 6.4 is the gap at this moment in time, as we now try and make our way on board with Medium Pilot as we head our way through Luffield, as we head our way towards Woodcote and then towards Copse Corner. Meanwhile, Killer Blue is going to be under pressure soon from the likes of Recon, but I think more importantly, Imad, who will be trying to get his way past Recon in order to try and have a go at Killer Blue up ahead. Of course, this new update that's happened now is that the drivers will be able to see instantly. They just get a visual cue about who they're battling and also what penalties are happening up ahead. So Perpetum here, now do bear in mind that 3 seconds is on the card here. The gap is 5.7 as we now head on towards the final lap. It is going to be nip and tuck as Perpetum makes his way now in towards the final couple of corners. The main thing is that he will not finish on the top step of the podium. He might be able to finish on the 3rd step, but that's going to be a huge ask with those penalties next to him. We might be able to have a word with him about that provisional status. However, Medium Pilot is pushing as hard as ever. 35-0 from Medium Pilot. He wants this, doesn't he? He knows he's got to try and get that gap down to under 3 seconds. Perpetum now realising he's got to try and make these skates work. Medium Pilot has a back marker to deal with. That's, I believe, Varkey, who's in 10th place at this moment in time, looking to just get that car to the start-finish line to score some points on the board. He's had penalties galore in this race. He's had damage galore as well, as he's just looking to try and get that car to the end and score some decent points for himself. Battle for fourth place still rages on. Imadi is really trying to close up to the back of Recon as they now make their way on towards the Wellington Straight, but Imadi doesn't get the exit of Aintree all too right, and he falls further and further behind. Perpetum has actually gone quicker than his own personal best, going through sector 2 by 0.03 of a second. He's desperately trying to hang on to this one. Varkey picks up a 3-second time penalty. That's his first of the race, and he picks it up on the final lap. Not bad going here. Perpetum now making his way through. With those 13 seconds worth of penalties, he's not going to be classified by the game as the race winner, but this will of course all be down to the stewards afterwards, whether those penalties will stand or whether they get taken off. So whilst Perpetum makes his way around the final couple of corners, he'll make his way towards Vale and towards Club for one last time in this race. He might just be able to hang on here to try and finish more than 3 seconds ahead of Medium Pilot. Perpetum will cross the line to take the checkered flag at Silverstone, but it will be Medium Pilot who comes across the line to take the victory here at the British Grand Prix. M. Short in second place. What a great drive from him. He rounds off this with a podium. There is Perpetum in third place. How about Killer Blue? What's he going to do then? Crossing the line we go. Does Recon finish in fourth? Yes, he does. Imadi finishing in sixth place there to take that checkered flag. Matthias starting from P16, only one qualifying lap on the board. He finishes a very respectable seventh place, and it will be Cohen who will finish in eighth place, with Coutinho the last of the runners on the lead lap. Varkey has already taken the checkered flag. He finishes in 10th place and gets some good points on the board. It's been a frustrating day for him, especially with those penalties and that damage he suffered in the race. He does finish a lap down in proceedings, but that doesn't tell you the full story of his race today. Meanwhile, Coutinho will be making his way around the final couple of corners to take that checkered flag. And in the most unusual way, we have to say, the official unofficial results classify Medium Pilot as the winner of the British Grand Prix. We find out from the fans, or the virtual fans I should say, who the driver of the day is. It's going to be Perpetum who manages to get those tyres into that podium spot, at least for now, and of course awaiting official jurisdiction. But at the moment then, it's a familiar face on the top step of that podium. It's going to be yet another win for our championship.
Fantastic win from Medium. The win, fantastic drive from him, but Perpetum. That was one insane tyre-saving drive. Probably the best I've seen, certainly in TTML. Probably one of the best I've seen in league racing, if I've got to be honest. And there's your official, unofficial results for now.
Absolutely. So Medium Pilot will take the race victory. M. Short in second place. Perpetum from 16th to 3rd at the moment. Not a bad drive from him at all. Recon finishing in 4th place with Killer Blue in 5th. Imadi 6th. Matthias in 7th with Cohen in 8th. Coutinho 9th. And Varkey, last lap of the race, he grabbed that final point for the fastest lap of the race, taking it away from Medium Pilot. So a great job from him in the Williams there. 34.5. That's a great lap from him. Non-finishers, Twitch Lemon, Venom, Carlsbury, Neo, Chapelele and Quicksilver all will not score any points for their championship standings for the team or for themselves as drivers. But James, the rain certainly didn't dampen our spirits. We got ourselves a great show tonight.
Brilliant show from our guys out on track here in Silverstone. One of those races, I think, where you will look back on and think, yeah, that contact earlier on was not that bad. We had 3 VSCs and a safety car. But Medium Pilot has won for now. M. Short second, Perpetum in third. What I will try to do is try and get them into the group. So if you give me 2 seconds, I'm going to add them. And I'm also going to end my end of the stream just for Tom. So there we are.
Oh, there we go. And of course, a big